Hi, everybody. In the spring of 2015, the community of Center Wellington heard that Nestle had an offer on the Middlebrook well. They wanted to pump 1.6 million liters of water a day, the amount Elora uses on an average day. A series of community meetings became Save Our Water. And at first, one common reaction that we heard all the time was, "You're crazy. This is a hopeless cause. What do you think you're doing?" But now we know we need 4 new municipal wells. We know our community is at significant risk for drinking water. Now the reaction is, keep it up. We have to win this. So how did that happen? In 2015, the local Legion hosted a series of well-attended public meetings, and we got together to brainstorm and get organized. We got committees going. We set up a table at the farmers market, had lots of conversations. We had a beautiful entry into the July 1st parade. We invited Maud Barlow to speak in Fergus, did fundraising events, tabled at Riverfest, Art in the Yard, and lots of community events. We were a presence. We had thousands of conversations and handed out lots of brochures. In 2016, the Township of Center Wellington made a cash offer for the well, knowing the municipality needed that water for a doubling population. Nestle firmed the offer and bought the well anyway. Soon the provincial government declared a 2-year moratorium on new water bottling permits. And this story attracted national and international media. We wanted to show the problem with a commercial water bottler threatening groundwater. So this video uses the blue flare as a symbol of a warning signal. So enjoy the video.
What do you consider precious? Who do you share your life with? And whose lives do you protect? When it comes to clean drinking water, the answer is simple. We must all come together to protect this precious resource. Because clean drinking water is essential to all of us. Water is a human right. Water is life. But in Center Wellington, Ontario, Canada, Nestle Waters threatens to take 1.6 million liters of groundwater every day from the Middlebrook well. Water we need to operate our businesses, feed our cities, and raise our families. But we have a choice to stand against Nestle and reject corporate greed. We have a choice to defend our human rights and to save our water. To learn more and to get involved, visit saveourwater.ca.
So over the last 5.5 years, we got visible and vocal with blue ribbons tied to trees, posts, mailboxes throughout Center Wellington. We started a sign campaign. We put up hundreds of signs. We did a month-long radio ad. We put ads in the paper continually. We were interviewed by CBC and CTV and the Toronto Star and the Globe and Mail, and people heard about the situation, the dilemma that we were in here. Visitors, tourists ask questions. They hear about our dilemma. We keep up the parades. We've got a picture of one of those parades as well. We also have a table at the farmers market and everywhere else we could. And there's an image of that. And we showed up the municipal office in force for the resolution supporting protecting water. This image was from Halloween, and that's why people are all dressed up in costume. And we have our 10-foot tall puppet, Nida, who was there as well. We had so many events to engage and educate our community. We had film showings, we had water blessings, we had a barn dance, we had a silent auction sale there, a guerrilla theater play, art shows, concerts. We tabled everywhere we could, universities, water stock, events of allies. We started a series of petitions. We had letter writing campaigns and parties. We did interviews with media in English and French. We marched to Middlebrook and joined the march to the Nestle plant in Aberfoyle. And we walked with the Grand River Water Walkers. Local businesses hosted events on our behalf, had petitions and fundraising buckets in their businesses. They donated products for auctions and took part in videos like the one you've just seen. Community members have held fundraisers like a music festival and a photo campaign for water protectors. Many have donated hundreds of hours to volunteer, hosted neighborhood gatherings, invited us to speak, bought our t-shirts and calendars, donated to support us, gone to Queen's Park with us, written letters, and so much more. Save Our Water has won 2 Chamber of Commerce awards to show that our business community is supporting us. We hosted an all candidates meeting. We've been inspired by this active, creative, and engaged community. We're both a visual and a vocal community, and both in social media and in the local paper. Our 10-foot tall puppet shows up. We have a giant sandwich board with blackboard messages on it. This is a well-informed, creative, and united to protect water community.
As Donna mentioned, over the past 5 years, many voices have expressed passionately and very eloquently why this water bottling is wrong for so many reasons that are way bigger than what's happening in our community. But at the very beginning, we knew that we had to have our municipal council on board. We needed them. This is back in 2015, and we were on a really tight deadline. Nestle had submitted an application for a pump test. The ministry could give them a go-ahead at any time. We thought we had only a few months to stop this. So for our council, we had to keep this local and factual. So when Nestle came to town, we had a brand new mayor and councillors that were in their very first term of office. So we thought, okay, what happens in Ottawa at the legislature when some issue comes up all of a sudden? Well, what happens is that a whole team of researchers at the Library of Parliament go to work, and they look at everything that pertains to the issue, all the government documents and legislation, and they look at what happens in other jurisdictions. And they prepare a brief so that the MPs are prepared to talk about the issue. So we decided we would do the same thing. We spent the whole first summer reading, going over the Water Resources Act, the Clean Water Act, and every municipal document that had to do with protecting and managing groundwater and how our environment, the ecosystems are being affected by our municipal pumping. For one thing, we noticed that there was no place in our official plan that was designated for future water sources. So we produced a briefing document for our councillors, our MPP, our county representatives. Then we invited each one of them out for a coffee or for a beer to have a one-on-one chat. And we told them, and we presented them with the briefing document, and we simply accepted from the very beginning that we were in this together as a team. So at that point, we didn't pay a whole lot of attention to Nestle, but about what needed preservation and about the question, what makes it okay to put water at risk? And the answer is, of course, we had consensus from all of our councillors that nothing makes it okay to put water at risk. So all of this has been an eye-opener for a lot of people, for our council and our mayor. Our council and mayor, and people here, they see the roads and they see deterioration of bridges, and they see all that, but they don't see what's going on underneath the ground. We all take our water system for granted. We turn on our taps and water comes out. We don't appreciate everything that's involved in making sure that this happens. Very few people, I think, are aware of the infrastructure that brings our water. And fewer people still are aware of the ecological and the other trade-offs that have to be made to make this happen so that we have our tap water. So when we know and understand where our drinking water comes from and how it gets to our taps, then we understand why we have to protect these precious sources of water. In Centre Wellington, we have a clearer knowledge of what is at stake with the Middlebrook Well. Now, we're really proud of our community that it has come together and made such a loud noise about this issue, but we're also really proud of our mayor and our councillors who understand our need for reliable water sources. They're informed and they're working on this. They've unanimously passed two important resolutions. One is to say that water should be kept in public hands, that water is a public trust. And the second resolution states that Centre Wellington is not a willing host community for new permits for commercial water bottling purposes under any circumstances. But, of course, our council is not the decision maker about water permits at the Middlebrook Well. This is the job of the Ministry of the Environment, Conservation and Parks. So our mayor and council have met with the minister and they brought the issue forward at that level. And Donna is going to talk about that.
So very early on, Save Our Water got some really good advice. And that was deal with the decision makers. And that would be the provincial government. First, the Ministry of Environment and Climate Change, and now the Ministry of the Environment, Conservation and Parks. They grant the permits to take water. We've had 4 ministers over the time: Glenn Murray, Chris Ballard, Rod Phillips, and now Jeff Urich, that you're going to hear from at 1 o'clock. All 4 have heard from Save Our Water. All 4 have heard from our mayor and council and from our community. We also have a positive relationship with the regional staff in Hamilton. We've provided them with reports, answers to questions, and feedback. The minister and ministry have received a great many letters, petitions, and messages about the situation in Centre Wellington. It would be very difficult for them to ignore those. They've heard from our mayor and council at the AMO conferences over a number of years, as well as at face-to-face meetings. Our group has met with MPP Ted Arnott, who's also the Speaker of the House now, on several and regular occasions out at his office, by telephone, and at gatherings. However, as a speaker, he cannot take our petitions forward or ask questions on our behalf in the House. So the latest petition, specifically about Centre Wellington, came to Queen's Park on February 27th of this year. Mike Schreiner read it and asked a question to the minister at the time. Supporters made it to the gallery despite a raging snowstorm, and a press conference with members of our group followed, organized by Mike Schreiner. Attempts to engage other MPPs and opposition parties have been limited. One can only hope they read the national newspapers. The Liberal government put the first moratorium in place quickly to protect our water. The Conservative government has extended it twice, now to April 1st of 2021. So there's been a moratorium in place for almost 5 years. We have sent science and economic briefs to many politicians and staff members. They say Centre Wellington needs that water and there's no economic benefit to Nestle pumping water here for Centre Wellington. New regulations for water management proposed by the ministry include a municipal voice, a veto in effect. They set priorities with municipal drinking water and environment coming first. We submitted comments. We had a conference call with policy staff, with Ted Arnott and Mike Schreiner's help. This is a team approach with the community, the mayor and council, the science studies, and the provincial government politicians and staff working together to protect groundwater. We know that Nestle has lobbyists working as well. We think our situation is a bit more compelling. The decisions here will set a precedent for Ontario. We hope the new proposals are made into regulation. that the groundwater is safe from being trucked out of the watershed. We also hope that everyone in the province benefits from the hard work of those protecting water.
And I just want to talk a little bit about the science. We knew at the start that there were a lot of uncertainties about what would happen with taking such a large amount of water out of the environment, and we needed scientists to take a look. And someone gave us some excellent advice and this might help other groups that are fighting similar kinds of causes that have values and science. How do you put science together with values such as considering water as a shared commons, with rights and as a sacred gift? So one of the things that I think we did work well was to separate out our science from our advocacy. And someone gave us some excellent advice to help us along this, to do this. We had to be able to accept the fact that it's very hard for a scientist to work with a group that is very firmly camped on one side of an issue. No scientist wants to be asked to take up a firm position and support a foregone conclusion before looking at everything. So for the benefit of our science then, we couldn't be stuck in a standoff between us and Nestle. We had to be willing to climb up out of that standoff to higher ground and then ask a scientist to help us. It had to be understood that we may not like what he or she finds. So the science had to become a separate group from Save Our Water. And here's why this is important. The public and groups like ours are going to keep haranguing the ministry. And the advocacy about real values about water and about environmental and water rights, that our haranguing about all this and advocating for all this can make a huge difference. But the thing is, Nestle on the other side is also going to be haranguing and lobbying with their full-time professional lobbyists. And the ministry can't take sides. In fact, it's their duty not to take sides. So we have to show them a ticket out. This ticket can come from technical evidence. In order for the minister to be willing to entertain an idea that will show them why the proposal may not be in compliance with their own regulations, the technical evidence has to be kept separate from the haranguing. The scientists that we asked to help could see immediately where the problem was. He said, forget about Nestle here. Step away from the standoff. The real issue here was our township's water system. Our water system is facing several challenges. Donna mentioned that the province has mandated that Fergus and Elora are mandated to double the number of residents in 25 years. There are few communities in Ontario that face this same accelerated growth rate. We'll need a lot more wells. Even without Nestle, our system has a lot of challenges to overcome to service the growth that the province itself has mandated. The ministries can't have this both ways, mandating growth while at the same time forcing us to compete with a water bottling company. Then the ministry called a halt for the moratorium on water bottling and asked for a high-level study of water for this area. And now the ministry's water study has indeed designated this municipality's water system at significant risk, which is the highest risk level. At the county level, Nestle's property is defined for dry use only, meaning you cannot take a significant amount of water. At the township level, they've done a study to assess our wells, and we need more wells than we thought we did 3 years ago. And interestingly, the very best place for our future water, it turns out, is the same general area as the Middlebrook well. So if Nestle's taking large amounts of water there, we can't develop our water system. It's pure and simple, we can't do it. So we hope this has given the ministry what it needs to say no to Nestle. The province has now proposed that any applicant for a water permit for water bottling needs to have the support of the host municipality. This is a huge step. Right now, it's a proposal only, and we hope that a municipal veto and water bottlers becomes a regulation. It certainly makes sense. We've come a long way, but our story is still far from over. We don't know what the final answer is going to be about Middlebrook, and so we have to keep the ministry's attention on this. Now, I know that right now, with so much at stake everywhere, it's really hard to figure out how to save the world and work for water justice. But at the moment, right here in Centre Wellington, it's pretty clear. We hope you'll check out our website and sign up for our newsletter, and follow us on Facebook, and help us make more waves. Now, if we have time, we have another short video that shows how this water taking is so bad for business. But I don't know if any questions have come in. I don't know if we should have the video or questions.
We do not have any chat questions yet, so maybe while we play the video, then people will add their questions.
Thank you.
Okay.
All right,
Thank you.
I'll get that started.
It shows why the business community is so concerned about this.
My name is Kayla. My business partner and I opened the Lost and Found Cafe nearly 3 years ago in the town of Elora. That's in Centre Wellington, Ontario. We welcome tourists visiting the area, and the cafe is also a gathering place for the local community. Like all businesses in this town, ours relies on access to local water. And Nestle Waters Canada wants a permit from the Ontario government to take 1.6 million litres daily from the Middlebrook well. And that's the same water that our cafe is accessing. It's the water that our schools need and that our families are using. I think the bottom line is that a community just can't thrive without a reliable source of water. And if the provincial government gives Nestle Waters Canada the permit to take that water, can that government really say that Ontario is open for business?
Businesses across Ontario rely on access to local water. But if Nestle Waters Canada is given a permit by the provincial government to take water, does this government really support businesses and municipalities? For more information, go to saveourwater.ca.
All right. Thank you, Jan and Donna, so much for that. We really appreciate all of your feedback and information and overview with that and the importance of everything. So if anyone has questions, now's the time to drop them in the chat. I know there are some of you here. We can see the number of attendees. So thank you for tuning in and being present and listening. And if you want to join the conversation, you can write some things in the chat. Otherwise, I can start off with a couple questions as we're waiting for those to come in.
Okay.
So what do you think the repercussions might be for other groups fighting water bottlers if you win with Middlebrook?
I think that this issue with Middlebrook has kind of become the line in the sand. If we can win this at Middlebrook, this will set a precedent for other groups that are fighting water bottling and those huge water extractions that have so many effects. So we're hoping that we can win here, and then other groups can say, if it can be done here, it can be done in other places. So I think the importance is seeing it as a precedent setting happening. So we just really hope that we can win this one.
Excellent. And we have a couple of questions from the chat. Robin's asking, many grocers put Nestle water prominently displayed at the entrance to their stores. Where does that water come from, and can we reach those grocers so that they better understand the problems with selling that water?
This is something that we looked into as well. We approached a number of the local stores, but many of them, their direction comes from their head offices and they don't have a whole lot of choices involved. Although one store owner told us that the amount of water that they were selling had gone down dramatically after our situation was pointed out. But yes, this is a huge issue, but the marketing comes from the main home offices, and they're the ones that you need to deal with in explaining it. But because they make so much money and it's a part of their system, it's very difficult to deal with the marketers. A lot of the local businesses here have gotten rid of water bottles. The local mill, for example, is getting rid of bottled water in all of their venues across southwestern Ontario.
And Evelyn's asking, what were some of the most difficult roadblocks you experienced?
I think at the very beginning, it was such a David and Goliath situation that it took a while to convince people that we had a voice, that we could make a difference. As I said, people said, "You're crazy. I mean, this is a loser. This is, what on earth can you do?" And now they're saying that, after 5.5 years, there's still no permit at Middlebrook, and there may not be. So that has changed around. And then again, trying to engage other MPPs. We've sent letters, we've had phone calls, and unless you are in their particular area, they really don't seem to be all that interested in the process, with the exception of a few.
Anything else? No, I think that's
Okay.
good.
And Rob Case also added, although he did step out for a minute, did you say anything about what people outside of Centre Wellington can do to support right now? So he's thinking of individuals as well as groups like Wellington Water Watchers in terms of actions for people to take.
I think sharing on social media, having conversations with people, letting people know that this is the canary in the coal mine in terms of protecting water in Ontario against commercial water bottling would be a good idea. Keep an eye on our website. Letters to the minister are always a really good idea. I think speaking to your local MPP would also be a good idea, because there are a number of people here from various ridings, and let your MPP know about the situation here.
Excellent. Thank you so much.